The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are those of the individual co-host and do not reflect the official policy or position of the Firearms Radio Network and or their employers. Viewer discretion is advised. This is especially true on our live shows.
Broadcast for shooters, hunters, and gun enthusiasts. This is the Firearms Radio Network. The bandwidth for this episode of This Week in Guns is sponsored by Patriot Patch Company. PatriotPatch.co.
Welcome to This Week in Guns. This show is brought to you by the Firearms Radio Network and Patriot Patch Company.
And this show offers commentary on the latest firearms industry news, information, and buzz. I'm your host, Sean Herron. My pleasure, as I always say, to introduce our panelists tonight. First up, we have returning a freelance gun journalist covering industry news, products, and reviews, and also she serves as Instagram's favorite micro warrior, Jackie Billings. Welcome back.
Hi, thanks.
Next up, we've also got another returner, firearms instructor and owner at Elite Firearms and Training and host of Gun Funny on the Firearms Radio Network, Ava Flanell in studio. Welcome back.
Thank you.
Absolutely glad to have both of y'all here. And we have a newbie, Second Amendment activist and trans woman who founded Operation Blazing Sword, Erin Paulette. Welcome to the show. And the music just ended just abruptly.
Thank you for having me.
Erin, you cut out. What was that? You still there, Erin?
I just said that.
This started off really great for us. Erin, you're cutting out just a little bit. I'm going to move into it. Again, check out Patriot Patch Company, patriotpatch.co, and you can find all the coolest patches, t-shirts, all kinds of good stuff. Erin's going to get the internet figured out and then come back with us. But yeah, patriotpatch.co. I'm going to get right into the stories just so because we have a ton to cover tonight. First story is no charges against Kentucky homeowner that shot police officer. This comes to us from ammoland.com. And let me set the stage. It's 5:30 in the morning. There's a police officer chasing, what do you call it? A suspect, chasing a suspect. He's in someone's backyard. There was a shootout. Officer doing his job. Homeowner gets concerned, sees a ruckus out in the yard, goes outside. There's a little bit of verbal confrontation. Police officer shoots at homeowner when he sees pistol, which I can't blame him, not even a little bit. Homeowner then shoots at police officer, hits police officer, and it was announced that homeowner is not going to be charged with anything, which I think is the correct thing. I'm glad no one died. Could have been a lot worse. What do you guys think?
Well, I think it's good that, definitely no one lost their life in this incident. My take on this was definitely the homeowner was trying to protect his home, and I completely get that. It's one of those situations, and I'm like, I probably would deflect to 911 at that point if I thought someone was prowling around. I might call the cops just to circumvent any instance like that. But I mean, I get it. Heat of the moment, you get up, you hear noise, you go after it. I'm just glad that no one lost their life in it.
Yeah, I do agree.
I think that was my concern. Is it's in his backyard, so he could have potentially just stayed in his house, locked the door, called 911. I mean, I always like to teach avoidance is key. And, Jackie, like you said, sort of heat of the moment. He had a gun that that the homeowner saw. So I could understand,
Yeah.
I could understand both sides.
Yeah. And one of the things I always preach, no matter what, is don't let the firearm on your hip and your nightstand, whatever, make you overbold. Don't let it make you do something that you wouldn't normally do. And the key here is if you wouldn't do something without a firearm, don't do it with a firearm. If you're not going to go out in your backyard and investigate, a guy running around out there in the middle of the night without a firearm, don't do it with a firearm. That's just, the bottom line. And yeah, call 911. If the guy tries to break into your house, that's a whole different story.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, cop didn't need to get shot. I am glad that the homeowner's not being charged. It's a good thing in my opinion. Next story is going to come to us from North Carolina. NC State trooper killed during a traffic. Totally scratch that. A Russian student kills 19, wounds more than 50 in Crimea. This actually comes to us from MSN.com. This was a bad one. 50 injured and 19 killed in Crimea. There was bombs, there was shootings, all kinds of crazy stuff going on there. And I think I don't know. I think the reason that I put this in the show tonight was just purely because people want to say that the United States is the only place that suffers mass killings and things like that, and clearly that's not true at all. This is the worst attack in this area since 2004. But you know, bad all the way around.
Well, and it also just goes to show that these types of things can still happen even if guns are tightly restricted, like they are in Russia. And, a shotgun was used. Whereas, like here in the US, media always, they try to ban ARs or anything, like they're not trying to ban shotguns, which is what this kid used. And he ended up injuring a lot of people for using a shotgun.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the bombs definitely hurt a lot of people. They said a lot of the injured had been minced with small metal objects,
which was homemade as well, that bomb. So it just goes to show if there is a will, there's a way.
Definitely.
Absolutely. I think like Sean, a lot of times we hear about school shootings and it gets labeled as a uniquely U.S. problem. And this just goes to show that it's not. There are bad people everywhere. And I think what we should be doing is addressing why kids are shooting other kids, not the guns or the tools or whatever they choose to do. It's obviously something that's going on with the youth of today that we should probably focus on and figure out what's happening.
Absolutely.
Aaron, sound check. You still there?
Check. Can you hear me?
It is working now. Any thoughts on this story?
Well, all the good ones were taken. I mean, I remember when Obama was making the claim that these sorts of things didn't happen in other civilized countries or other developed countries. And we have this. The thing is, though, as horrible as it is, it could have been a lot worse if he'd used fire.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
It's not a problem.
Yeah, I definitely agree. The next story is it's a real tough one. South Carolina teen turned himself in for negligently killing a man when he shot at a sign. So a retired Marine sitting on his front porch, 48 years old, just doing his own thing, hanging out, enjoying the weather, and just suddenly gets hit by a gunshot. Turns out it was just a kid shooting at a street sign, and the bullet traveled as they do. It's one of the rules, right? Be aware of your target and what lies behind it. Yeah, just awful situation. Man died on his front porch, wife and kids inside the house. And now the kid has turned himself in. And I mean, at the very least, it's going to be negligent. Who knows how far they're going to take this one.
Well, do we know that he turned himself in on his own, or if the police were narrowing it down and someone told him, they're going to come get you. You might as well make it easier on yourself. I'm just trying to figure out how much I should appreciate his sense of honor and ethics and doing the right thing and fessing up to this negligent homicide.
Yeah.
I can't find it here in the article.
I agree.
Doesn't say.
Yeah. And my guess is there's probably none. He probably either had been informed that they were going to get a warrant for his arrest or something. My guess is that he probably didn't even know, or maybe he saw it on the news. I don't know. Unknown on that point.
Yeah. I mean, it certainly doesn't excuse his actions, but I do have to applaud anyone who has the fortitude to own their mistake.
Yeah. Yeah. I completely agree. Jackie, thoughts on this one?
Obviously it's terribly tragic. A man lost his life, and this kid is essentially going to lose part of his. I mean, this is something that's going to follow him probably for the rest of his life. And I think this is why I'm a big advocate, and I know a lot of other people out there are big advocates of education and teaching kids about guns and the consequences and making sure that they follow safety rules. I don't think in the article it said where he got the gun, but if it came from home, making sure that you're locking up your firearms if they're not on you and they're not in use, so that children can't get a hold of these. Because even though he's 16, at 16, you're still not making bright decisions. You still don't always understand the implications of the actions. So it's tragic all around.
Yeah, it really is. And you think about it. I mean, this is a teenager doing what teenagers do in that part of the world, kind of in the middle of nowhere, is shooting street signs.
Yeah.
I mean, how many thousands of people have done the exact same act and no one died? It just takes that one time.
Yep.
That one time to change lives forever. Last week, I saw that all kinds of content creators were sharing the story about a decorated Vietnam vet sentenced to 7 years for an illegal M14 he bought decades ago. And I saw the sentiments like, how could people do this to him? Hasn't he earned any leeway in anything that's going on? Basically, what had happened is, this is what he pleaded guilty to. Are you guys familiar with this story at all?
Yes.
So this was a tough one, and everyone was all up in arms because they went after him for this rifle, and everyone was super upset about it. But what I don't think a whole lot of people saw was the actual reasons, and this comes to us from the Eastern District of Texas. This is their website for the legal state's attorney's office, and basically he was found guilty of that, but he was also doing all kinds of stuff. He had cocaine, marijuana, 14 firearms, the fully automatic machine gun with an obliterated serial number. His daughter had reported to investigators that he had sexually abused her from the time she was 4 years old until the age of 17, taking nude photographs of her, as he put it, to chart her growth and sexually assaulting her. He had threatened the federal magistrate judge who detained him, indicating he would fly his plane with explosives to kill the judge and ATF agents who investigated this case. And he would have taught the Las Vegas shooter a thing or two. So this is
oh geez.
I didn't even read that. I mean, so that was in a different article that you found it.
Well, I saw that this was in the show notes, but I know because I had read a bunch about this earlier this week, and I think that's the thing is so much attention was placed on this original story of this war hero that was basically being taken to task by the U.S. government. And it turns out he's a total piece of garbage and deserves everything and more that he got. But I just thought it was interesting.
I mean, either way, I think everyone should know that obviously if the serial number is scratched off, there's something,
something shady there.
Like, why would you buy it? And it's illegal to buy a full auto.
It looks like he had stolen it when he was in the military, I think is what I found.
Well, it wasn't illegal to buy it in the early 80s because what was it? The Hughes Amendment, I think. I'm terrible with names. That made it really difficult to get machine guns. That was like 86. So it sounds like he got it well before then and was grandfathered in. But yeah, the obliterated serial number is really sketchy. It's even worse if he did it himself.
Yeah, it's just interesting. I will put this in the show notes, this link to the Eastern District of Texas United States Attorney's Office. Just because it like they write it up. They're like, yeah, this is everything that he was actually accused of. Although he did take a plea bargain on what he actually got convicted of. So just to don't get all up in arms about everything. People gotta kind of read the entire story between the lines, so on and so forth. But yeah, I thought this one was really interesting just because I know that a lot of really big content creators were up in arms about it.
The media wouldn't bury the lead like this. There's so much information on this, and they just neglected the heart of the story.
Yeah, I totally agree. And what's the original story? It comes to us from Fox News. Vietnam war hero sentenced to 7 years for decades-old rifle purchase. And it just turns out complete joker.
Wow.
Next story, London knife crime soars to highest level ever recorded. And it is pretty high. Nearly 15,000 offenses committed during the past year, according to figures that came out last week. The Office for National Statistics said that a total of 14,987 knife crimes in the year to the end of June was a 15% rise on comparable figures 12 months earlier. Included 91 knife killings, 170 rapes or sexual assaults carried out with a blade, and 8,363 knife point robberies. The reason I bring stuff up like this on this show is because it just shows something that I think most of the people on the 2A side actually talk about, that it doesn't matter the tool that violence is perpetrated with. We don't have a gun problem. We have a humanity problem. We have a society problem. And it's not just the United States. It's England. You take the guns away and now they've got a knife epidemic. You take the knives away and there's going to be people running people over in a bomb epidemic or something like that.
Don't forget the acid attacks.
Acid attacks and all kinds of other stuff. What do you guys think?
Well, I also, in the article, it said that the number of robbery, sexual offenses, all of that, like, greatly increased as well. Because obviously, if somebody doesn't have anything to defend themselves, then it's kind of free game at that point.
Yeah. You remove the naturally given right of self-defense, and the animals take over.
Mm-hmm.
criminals are going to be criminals. I mean, at the end of the day, that's what they're going to do. Guns, knives, baseball bats, bare hands, they're going to do it. And, again, guns aren't the problem. It's a people problem, not a tool problem.
Absolutely.
Yep. Criminals.
And remember, this is the United Kingdom, where they actually report homicides differently. Here in the United States, we report homicides when we have a body. The United Kingdom, unless they've changed things very recently, they would only classify a homicide once they had achieved a conviction. Otherwise, it was just a dead body under circumstances. They were padding their before literally admit to being worse. Things must be really bad there.
Wow.
I didn't know that.
I didn't know that either. That's intense. Because how many years does it take to, get somebody through the criminal system,
Yeah, exactly.
the justice system? Yeah. Wow.
I'll see if I can dig up a link for you, but there was some dirty dealing being done by the Home Office to make the United Kingdom as a whole, but generally London, look a lot less violent than it actually is.
Wow. Had no idea. But, we handed them that L in 1776 and they've been taking it ever since. All right. No one's going to laugh. That's cool. I got it.
Wait, hold on. I got you.
Thanks. California teen kills father to defend his mother from abuse. From the Good Files. This comes to us from Yahoo News. California's teenager was allegedly protecting his mother from physical abuse over the weekend when he shot and killed his father. They had called 911 when they got there. They interviewed the mother and the son, allowed them to return home. No arrests have been made. Good. You just can't go around hurting people. This kid had reason to believe that his mother was going to die or be caused serious bodily harm, and he used lethal force to prevent that. And I say good.
Yeah, I just feel bad that the kid was put in that situation. Can you imagine? I mean, you killed your dad. Like, he shouldn't feel bad about it, but I just wish that he was not put in that situation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think that's the tragic thing, is that this kid, again, is going to have to live with this for the rest of his life. And I think it raises an important issue about domestic violence and how we should probably be putting a lot more resources into education, helping people figure out how to not find themselves in these situations, and also resources to get themselves out safely without, a 16-year-old kid having to shoot his dad to save his mom.
Definitely.
Yeah, definitely. I saw my mom get beat up when I was a kid. It was awful. So I really definitely, kind of know where this kid was coming from, and that feeling of helplessness that he had. And I'm glad that he was able to take action and prevent further abuse.
You want a tissue?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Okay.
I mean, no, never mind. I'm not even going to say that. That would be terrible. South Carolina deputies ambushed by homeowner while trying to serve a search warrant. This comes to us from the New York Times. So you can only imagine how they talk about all this stuff that goes on. But South Carolina man who ambushed officers had 129 guns at his home. And basically they were going there to serve a warrant on his adopted son, who was 28 years old. And the warrant was going to be for child endangerment or child abuse, something like that. Child sex crime, I believe is what it was. Criminal sexual assault. And this guy opened up 6,500 square foot house, clearly, obviously, I mean, not clearly, but seemed like he was doing okay, and just opened fire on officers when they came to the house. It says here that he shot 39 rounds. The officer shot back 390 rounds, and then further goes on in the New York Times to say, that the officers never really had a chance. And that it strikes me as editorial grandstanding personally. What do you guys think?
I mean, first of all, I'm like confused why this guy's even shooting at the cops when obviously the warrant had nothing to do with him.
Yeah. And
that's like the whole time I'm reading this article, I'm like, there's just so much wrong with this article that I don't understand why he felt the need to shoot at the officers.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, the guy did actually legally own all of the guns that were in his home, but it is written kind of funny.
Yeah, it was a curious story. I'm like, I feel like there's something here that you're not giving me, because this doesn't really add up. How do you just like decide, oh, I'm gonna, make a stand against a bunch of officers? Like, it doesn't really make sense.
Definitely seems like there might be some other things that come out. And I do have to, before we go further, say that 2 of the officers have now passed away, which is terrible. and this guy's going to be spending the rest of his life in prison instead of his 6,500 square foot estate. Aaron, any thoughts on this one?
Not really, because again, the good points. I don't know why this guy was shooting at the police. It could be that he was protecting his son, which is understandable from the point of view of a parent shooting at the cops, even when you, of course, well, that's the thing. We don't know. He might have just been the crazy paranoid type. And I actually think the not knowing in the article is worse. What's wrong with a little more investigative journalism here to tell us what's going on? Because there's more to the story, like you mentioned, and we don't know. It unfortunately, it just portrays all gun owners as crazy people snap at a moment's notice and start killing people. And we need to do whatever we can to fight that. Sometimes people are crazy. Sometimes they're that we don't know. And I'm not trying to defend him, but it's just that lack of anything is really nagging at me.
Yeah, I agree. And it's tough to read with this New York Times article, which seems like an opinion piece more than reporting the news.
Mm-hmm. His mugshot's kind of interesting.
Yeah, he
like,
looks,
how did he end up with a black eye?
Well,
I have all the questions.
Yeah, he had a rough ride to the station, is my guess.
Well, yeah, you know, you shoot at cops, especially if you kill.
They're not going to treat you so well. Aaron, you're cutting out.
You know, station. Sorry.
No problem.
It just sounded like you almost.
It was like it's like I'm on Battlestar Galactica right now.
Which is unfortunate because everything that you're saying is extremely interesting.
It cut out a bit.
Yeah.
I'll do what I can.
No, you're fine. This next story, actually, Aaron, directly relates to some stuff that you are involved and interested with. Sad to announce that the Pink Pistols mourns the loss of their founder. This comes to us from the Truth About Guns. Founder of the Pink Pistols takes his own life, was battling depression. His mom posted on Facebook announcing it, and really super tough. So to all his loved ones and family and friends and people that he had inspired with his organization, I definitely, my heart goes out to all of you. And Aaron, you actually are directly involved, and Jackie, you too, because you wrote the article that the Pink Pistols had recently merged with Operation Blazing Sword. So Aaron, I was hoping that you would expound a bit just on the loss of the founder, as well as what you guys plan going forward.
All right. Well, first, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. All right. Let's hope it lasts. So I never had the pleasure of getting to know Doug Krick, aka Krikket. He was actually a generation removed from me. He founded the Pink Pistols back in 2000, and all of my interactions had been with Gwen Patton, who succeeded him.
Mm-hmm.
Recently, I became national coordinator of the Pink Pistols just about a month ago, and I now cover Gwen problem. And as a result of that, Doug reached out to me, and I was looking forward to having a Facebook friendship with him and learning from his wisdom. And unfortunately, he has been taken from us too soon as a result of battling with depression. It's something that has troubled him all his life. And unfortunately, he lost that battle last week. And it's tragic. The loss of any life diminishes us, especially one who did so much to help the vulnerable and the disenfranchised. But the fact that he founded such a powerful organization that is with each new wealth.
Dang, sorry, it's cutting out again.
Give him a bit more. I don't want to say purpose, because we all define what our purpose is, but it will hopefully be a nice crown.
Yeah, sorry, Aaron, it's cutting out.
And I'm sorry, go on.
No, I'm sorry. It's cutting out again. I'm only hearing about half of what you're saying. Jackie,
Oh God.
Jackie, you wrote this article. Where were you guys at when this was announced?
When we found out that Pink Pistols and Operation Blazing Sword were joining forces and kind of coming under one umbrella, it was at the Gun Rights Policy Conference in Chicago back in September. And I was there along with my editor from guns.com covering the event. And it was one of those things when it was announced, I thought, hey, this is newsworthy because it obviously impacts the members of these groups and impacts gun owners. And I was also hoping to bring some attention to the organization because I think what they do is important for the LGBTQ community. And yeah, it took off. It was one of those stories that I wrote it and I never expected it to get as big as it did. And it did. And it's been interesting. So I'm glad it got some attention. Hopefully it reaches the people it needs to reach, because that's always the hope in journalism, is that you reach the people that you need to. But yeah, it's been cool.
Very cool. Aaron, I know you're still there. Sorry that it keeps cutting out, because I'm definitely interested in what you have to say on this, but I'm really excited to kind of see where you take it. Do you think, oh, Aaron just dropped off. I was going to say, do you think that this is, and I'll kind of pose this to you guys. Do you think that the merging of these two organizations is overall healthy? Do you think that sometimes as gun owners with all these different interests, and we have it even with Gun Owners of America, Firearms Policy Coalition, National Rifle Association, NRA, ILA, all these different things, all these different places. Do you guys think that sometimes it fractures our good intentions and kind of takes away from where everything else needs to be?
I think in some situations it can be. In this one, I don't think so, because we're talking about a marginalized group who is unfortunately gets a lot of violence directed at them and a lot of hate directed at them, and may not feel comfortable rolling up to a range, may not be accepted depending on what parts of the country they live in, going to certain ranges. So, in certain situations, yeah, all the fragmented groups I would look at and be like, well, you guys are doing the same thing. Why don't you just kind of come together? In this case, I think it's valuable to have an organization like this that caters to a marginalized group.
Yeah, I agree. I actually think in this case, unity is going to be more beneficial for them.
Yeah, they're definitely pushing a lot of the same messages and things like that, and to be able to take their user bases, their message, their dollars, and put it all towards the same end cause, I think is a fantastic thing.
Well, I also think they do a unique job too of kind of bridging that gap between conservative and liberal. They have the ability to bring in maybe liberal, esque people to our side. So, I kind of see it as it could bridge that gap a little bit more and show people on the left that we actually have a lot more in common than we do apart.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that.
Yep, 100%. I'm going to go just a little bit back and talk about a different story. New York Police Department pulls body cameras after one explodes. I guess this isn't tremendously interesting on its own, but what do you guys think about the body cameras on police? And I'll give you my thoughts real quick. I think that it's definitely a great thing for the police department in most cases, because they can really document what people say. And when people try to lie and say, they abused me in this way or the other way, then they've got the body cam footage, and I think it's a great thing. But some people consider it an invasion of privacy. I'm somewhere probably in the middle on this one, as I am on a lot of issues. What do you guys think about body cameras on cops?
I'm not against it. I think if anything, it's solid evidence that a lot of times could make or break a case. And right now it's difficult for police officers out there. So it's kind of like their word against, the other person. And that could be difficult to prove at times.
Yeah, I think the same thing. I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing. I think it's a bad thing when you buy cheap gear. I think our law enforcement and military as well deserve high quality gear, because they're the ones going out there putting their lives on the lines to protect us. So I think it's worth investing in decent, high quality gear that isn't going to literally explode on them as they're trying to do their job. And fortunately, no one was hurt, but I just do them a solid and help them out here.
Yeah, definitely.
And that's like with all the gear that they usually have. Just their belts, and a lot of their duty gear isn't really top quality, which is unfortunate.
A lot of times, very true. Yeah. Taxpayers don't necessarily want to increase taxes to pay for those important things that cops use to protect us and save their lives and all that stuff. They're removing 3,000 body cameras from use after one of the devices blew up. And they actually had planned by December to outfit all 23,000 patrol officers with body cameras. So this company's got some explaining to do.
Yeah, no kidding. Hopefully they get a refund.
Definitely. Wow. Moving into the I'm offended segment, gun control group wants people to report armed citizens at polling places. This comes to us from Breitbart. I don't even know what this is about, but so here it goes. The gun control group Guns Down America is asking citizens to send a text alerting authorities if they see an armed citizen near a polling area. They suggest their request is made out of concern of the political climate under President Trump, whatever. And then the founder or the director says, given the troubling political rhetoric we've seen over the last 2 years and that guns are far too easy to obtain, this campaign will help the majority of Americans who believe that fewer guns keeps us safer, fight back, and cast their ballots free from fear of intimidation. To which I'm like, what? That's not how this works.
Yeah, no kidding. Not to mention, okay, so they text guns down to this number, this 5-digit number. What is that going to do? Like who are they reporting to? Like this company?
Yeah, they're reporting to this organization. And
so then what's the organization going to do?
Yeah, what are they going to do?
That's like when I went to California and I saw a robot, a police office, a security robot, and it's like,
station, yeah.
And I'm like, what is this going to do? So it's just, maybe it's documenting footage, but at the end of the day, like you still have to catch that person that potentially, committed the crime and I'm assuming that most of these people carrying guns, they're law-abiding citizens, so they're not doing anything wrong.
Yeah, totally agree. What are they going to do with the information that they get? And why don't they just call and report people who drive green cars? Because that's about as illegal as carrying a gun.
Yeah.
What do you think, Jackie?
I don't get this at all. Voter intimidation is a federal crime, and I don't think you should roll up to a polling place with a gun in the hopes of infringing on someone else's, legal right to vote. But if you are legally just carrying like you do, OWB, or just, I guess if you like to roll around with your rifle, that's your thing, whatever. I don't think it makes any sense that you get accosted by the cops or anybody else if you're doing it legally, shouldn't be a problem. And then, I'm like, where does this information go? Are they wasting police resources to call the police out there? That's an issue for me. Or is it just like logging this? Like, I need more information here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. And Breitbart, come on. What are they planning to do with this information? The whole thing doesn't make any sense to me.
We need to know.
Not to mention, it's not like we have like license plates on us. So
right.
Like, oh, this guy with the red shirt and the jeans and the hat, he's carrying a gun. How are you supposed to actually report somebody?
Yeah, I don't even know. Aaron, I think you're back.
I hope I'm back.
I think you are. So this is the gun control group Guns Down America wants citizens to send texts alerting authorities if they see armed citizens near polling areas. Thoughts on that?
Well, I'm not really sure what's already been said. I came in late. I was setting up a hotspot. It seems to me that what's going on here is they're trying to cultivate hysteria. And I've seen this a lot, really, in the past few weeks. Similarly, and bear with me for a moment, I saw how the New York Times reported about how there was a memo that had been circulating since last spring about how they want to reverse a previous policy and say that someone's gender is the biological sex they were born as. And this has a lot of my transgender friends freaking out. And it's understandable that they would freak out. But when you look into the story more closely, you realize the New York Times is the only one reporting this, and there's no reference to this memo at all. I can't find it anywhere. And while I could be wrong, it seems like this is just trying to stir up hysteria right before the vote. And okay, Republicans bad, they hate trans people, vote them out. And that honestly seems like what's going on here as well. We've got to get people all good and scared so that they equate gun owners with bad. And so if you see them anywhere near, you've got to panic and you've got to call the police.
Yeah. Kind of ridiculous. I hope they get charged with, trying to incite, I don't know, whatever disorder or whatever it would happen to be. Kenny, I'm going to mess up your life right now. And I apologize to the people who are watching live. But I do want to hear what Aaron had to say regarding taking the reins at the Pink Pistols. And Aaron, if you could kind of do that again for us, Kenny will be able to go back and edit it back to where it belongs.
Okay, I'm not really sure where I was when I cut off.
Probably just start over.
Just start from
yeah.
the beginning.
Okay. All right. So I was saying that Doug Krick had battled with depression all his life, and it was really tragic that he decided to take his life because the loss of one person diminishes us all. But the fact that he founded this fantastic organization that has gone on to improve the lives of uncountable people really is a star in his crown, and he has achieved a sort of immortality in that regard. And so when he retired and Gwen Patton took over, she was still doing things in honor of him. And now that Gwen has retired due to medical issues, and now I have taken over the operation of Pink Pistols, I'm still doing this in honor of Doug. It's not that I'm doing it specifically to honor him, but he had the insight, the bravery to step forward and say, hey, I'm queer and I'm a gun owner. And that is something that is very difficult. Not a lot of straight people know this, but gun ownership in the queer community is really, really looked down on. And coming out as a gun owner has about the same sort of social repercussions as being outed as being gay in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. I mean, there's a lot of naming, shaming, and blaming. There is a lot of loss that can happen. You can lose all sorts of relationships. You might even lose your job because of it. And so the fact that he had the courage to create an organization where armed queer people could get together to defend themselves and protect themselves from predation it seems like a minor thing now, but that's only because of what has been accomplished in the past 20 years. And so moving forward, because I think that was something you wanted to know, I originally created Operation Blazing Sword as a result of the Pulse Massacre, because I saw a lot of gun owners coming forward and saying, I don't care what your sexuality is. I don't care what your politics are. You are a human being. You have a right to life. And that's beautiful. I want to help you. I want you to protect your life. But I knew that people couldn't see it. And so I founded Operation Blazing Sword to pair gun-curious queer people who wanted to learn about guns but had been told for decades that gun owners hated them. And I would pair them up with these gun owners who were absolutely friendly towards queer people. But before all that happened, I was a Pink Pistol. And I had hoped that at some point Pink Pistols and Operation Blazing Sword could get back together. And now that Gwen has retired due to medical issues, we are back together as one family. And a critical difference here is that Operation Blazing Sword is a 501c3 charity. I can raise funds on a national level, whereas Pink Pistols didn't. It's really a difference in philosophy, because Blazing Sword was founded in the era of social media where everyone was connected, but Pink Pistols was founded in 2000 when the internet was still pretty new, and it was deliberately decentralized because there was concern that if there were membership lists, they could be subpoenaed. And so everything was kept at a very local level. And that was great for privacy, but it makes it very difficult for individual chapters to do things. If someone wanted a booth at Pride, they would have to raise funds themselves. And if they didn't raise those funds, it didn't happen. Well, hey, now that they have merged into Operation Blazing Sword, I can raise funds on a national level for chapters, so that if someone really wants to have a booth at a Pride festival, but they can't afford it, I can ask people across the country to donate, and I can make that happen. And that's really what I'm looking forward to here, is using the power of interconnectedness and social media to help these individual chapters grow and blossom and thrive. And my ultimate goal is to have a Pink Pistols chapter in every major city across the country.
Nice. That's awesome. I will tell you, and I think I probably speak for everyone here. I don't want to put words in anyone's mouth, but whether it's a queer person, a black person, Chinese, As long as someone doesn't carry a high point, I think we're all in agreement that everyone deserves guns.
Says the guy who owns like 20 high points.
Okay, that'll do.
And has penis print on some of his guns. Okay.
I do what I want.
Hey, no kink shaming.
Yeah, exactly. Stop. No, that I definitely I'm excited, and it's interesting that I talked earlier about fragmenting, which I didn't talk earlier because Kenny's going to edit this back into the beginning. But fragmenting some of these groups, I think, definitely takes away from the efficacy sometimes. Are you excited about kind of joining forces again, and do you think that it's going to overwhelm you?
Well, I sure hope not. Fortunately, I have a lot of friends who are willing to donate their time and their energy to help me make this happen, because I'm getting pretty close to getting burned out as it is, just trying to juggle all things. But I'm pretty sure I'll find a groove and I'll be able to carry on. But you raised a very good point about the fragmenting, and it's one of the reasons why I'm trying to normalize the word queer. And I realize that for people of a certain generation, that's considered a slur. But I have a problem with the increasing proliferation of consonants in the acronym. I mean, LGBTQ is possible to say. You need a bit of practice. I fumbled it just now. I've been saying it for years. But the current hotness is LGBTQQIIAP, which is just impossible to work into a conversation. And people look at that and they just go, no, I can't say that. And I'm trying to push the word queer for two reasons. Because first of all, it's an actual word. People can say it. It's easy. It's not this intimidating mass of unpronounceable consonants. Secondly, and this gets back to the fragmentation, I know that each letter, when they add it, they are trying to be more inclusive, but each time you add a letter, you actually make things more exclusive, because someone will go, well, now I don't have a letter that represents me, so I want you to add another. Hey, I'm not represented. I want to add another. Hey, you didn't include Native American Two-Spirits. Let's add a 2 in there. And it just gets worse and worse. Queer is a wonderful umbrella term because it covers everything. And so that's why I'm trying to push that. And it combats a whole bunch of things. It's easy to say, it's fast, no one stumbles over it, and it's nicely inclusive.
Definitely. Well, I'll start using it on this show, but I'm telling you, if someone punches me in the mouth because of it, I'm going to blame you.
Well, you go ahead and you tell them that I said it was okay, and if they still have problems, I'll go set them straight.
All right, perfect. I love it. Thank you so much for talking to us about that. And again, sorry for the loss to the community. Next story: Pelosi wants to forego procedure if the Dems win the midterms. Not too surprising, but excuse me. Pelosi says if they win, no more procedure. We need to put this stuff into place quickly as we possibly can, and procedure be damned. And we'll get that in there. And what the are you kidding me? Yeah, let's get rid of everything, all the checks and balances in government, and have a true monarchy.
Yeah.
That's why the Second Amendment is important, folks. Jackie, what do you think?
Well, I mean, first of all, this is one of those I'm shocked but not shocked because it's Pelosi, so of course she's gonna say that. But yeah, I mean, our whole system was founded on checks and balances and procedure. That is what our country was built on, to prevent what we left. So to say that you're going to get rid of that is counterintuitive to what we as American people stand for and what we were built upon. So, I mean, good luck with that. Have fun with that. But I don't think it's going to work out the way she wants it to.
No, not even a little bit. It's remarkable that A, she would say this in public with cameras running and everything else, and B, that these ridiculous idiots would cheer something like that. Like, are you kidding me? I don't care what side of the gun debate you're on. It doesn't matter to me. None of that matters. All that matters to me is that you care about freedom in our country and everything that it's founded upon. That's really all that matters. I have tons of friends that would be considered liberal. I have tons of friends that don't care about guns, and it doesn't matter to me. But you start talking about taking away freedoms, you start talking about having our government be, that overarching just 1984 George Orwellian thing. Forget it. I'm not interested at all. And that again, that's why the Second Amendment exists.
Definitely.
Yep.
Wow. All right. Well, I guess that takes us to our full auto news segment where we talk about some of the crazy stuff that's going on out there. Jackie, why don't you start us off?
So hang on. I usually have it pulled up and I don't have it pulled up. Husband shoots wife to death inside a Taco Bell KFC restaurant. It sounds like it's another kind of domestic violence situation. They were obviously having relationship issues. He walked in, shot her, and then killed himself. Tragic incident. Fortunately, no one else was hurt. This wasn't like a spree killing. But again, I think, like I said earlier, definitely highlights the need for domestic violence resources and the need for these kinds of conversations to happen so that this doesn't continue to happen.
Yeah, that's a tough one. All that domestic violence stuff, like
there's a lot going on.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
One of the reasons why I haven't gotten married yet. Who needs it? I'll just continue to live alone.
Right. You don't want to drive someone to domestic violence. Is that
yeah. But I don't know. And then it's kind of like, so I probably am the only one who thinks about this, but like, I wonder how quickly people are going to go back and like eat there again after all this happens.
Well, it'll be Tuesday.
I know.
Because, Taco Tuesday. Not to put comedy on a terrible situation, but yeah, that is a tough one.
Yeah.
Next up, police recover stolen van full of donuts and share their haul with the homeless. Anyway, van gets stolen, has a bunch of donuts in it. This is fake news. Cops aren't going to share donuts.
That's what I was thinking.
That's just not going to happen. You said something before the show. You're like,
yeah, okay. So I was thinking, so a van gets stolen, filled with donuts, and then the person who stole it or the people, they, maybe they leave it somewhere. I don't know how the cops retrieved it, but then they're going to eat the donuts, not knowing what, like, if anything could have happened to these donuts from the time that they were actually, made and put in the van to the time that they were actually, and then stolen and then retrieved.
I mean, it's probably
like I personally would not be eating the donuts. How do you know there's not poison in them?
Well, I don't know. It just
maybe
seems
that was the whole
far-fetched.
reason why they stole the van. And then they just left the van.
Maybe the cops knew they were poisoned and they wanted to get rid of some homeless people.
Okay, let's not add comedy to this.
I don't even know. But it's a feel-good story. That fed the homeless, and I think.
And who doesn't like a donut?
Yeah, exactly.
Even if it does have poison in it.
Aaron, you've got the last full auto news story.
All right, so I'm sure you all heard the terrible, horrible news coming out of Miami when a bunch of people, between 30 and 50 armed people walked onto the South Point Pier down in Miami. No?
Yeah.
Gosh, I wonder why. It's because nothing happened.
Yeah, it's surprising and very unremarkable.
Yeah, so back in June, there were 6 members of Florida Carry, which is the state-level gun rights organization, who were openly carrying pistols while fishing. And this is completely within the law. Florida law states that you can open carry while you are engaged in fishing, you are going to begin fishing, or you are coming back. And there wasn't a problem with any of the bystanders, but one of the park rangers had a problem with it, called the police. The police responded with drawn weapons, detained these people for over an hour, and there were some injuries sustained when the police were none too gentle. And there is a lawsuit pending against the city of South Miami for this unlawful detainment. But one of the things Florida Carry did, both to raise awareness for the legality of the statute and also maybe to tweak the city a little bit, it was, okay, well, if you didn't like people with pistols, we're going to go fish with slung rifles. Mm-hmm. And we're going to bring as many members to Florida Carry as possible. And so we had between 30 and 50 people, and I saw mostly AR-15s, but there was one gentleman who had a slung Mosin Nagant with a Florida Carry flag flowing off the bayonet.
That's how you know who the ballers are.
Yes, that was actually Richard Nachak, who's one of our board of directors. And so all the articles leading up to it were typical pearl clutching hysteria about, oh my God, these armed maniacs are going to be on the pier. You should avoid it. Don't take your children. Murder's going to happen at any moment. And that's not what happened at all, because I was there and I saw people not only walking past us and they weren't concerned. People were walking past us with their young children, like 5-6 years old. There was not a problem.
Yeah.
And like 90% of the people just simply did not care. The other 10% was about evenly divided between people who were legitimately curious why we were carrying. A lot of them were tourists, like from other countries. I am from Ukraine. I do not understand. Why do you have a rifle? Do you need to shoot fish? And we explained, and it was like, oh, I understand. Very good. And then there was like 1 or 2 people who were taking pictures of us, and they didn't approve of us, and they very obviously didn't approve. They had the little sour face, and they were taking pictures of our faces as if they maybe wanted to shame us, as if that was possible. I don't understand. But yeah, it was billed as this big, terrible, horrible murder was going to happen, and then afterwards, there was literally one news report done on it on the Associated Press, and all of the other news stations just repeated the same dang thing. They couldn't even be bothered to write up a new news report on it. It was just, yeah, this thing happened. Okay.
Yeah.
Now sports.
I got to say this. So normally I am not an advocate of open carry. It is my personal choice. If other people want to do it, it's their right. And if it's legal, I don't care. As long as something's legal and you're not hurting anyone else, I really generally don't care what people do. I think that a lot of times open carry is harmful to us as Second Amendment advocates. I think that sometimes explaining these stories takes more effort, time, and energy than anyone who's willing to put into it. And especially the people who we really want to communicate with, it's going to fall on deaf ears because all they see is guns and they get scared. In this instance, this is an amazingly effective use of open carry. This is what all open carry should be, because in this situation, they made that statement. They educated law enforcement officers. They educated the public in some areas. Like, this is the shining example of why open carry is amazing, because it was legal. They were doing nothing wrong. They had their kids, their families, and everything out there. And I think that in this case, awesome use of open carry to make a statement and educate people. I think it's great.
Thank you. I thought it was great too.
Anyone else have thoughts on this one? All right. Perfect. Well, it is time to start wrapping this thing up, guys. And I'm going to start with Jackie. What you been up to? What stories you been writing? Where can everyone find you?
You can find me at guns.com. For those of us who are frequenting the site now, we are doing a little bit of some redesign. So I know that some people have had difficulties finding the news section. It's in the top left corner for those that need it. But we're still chugging out news, churning out news. I'm working on some things. One that I'm excited to get out here in the future is the evolution of gun owners, talking about how gun owners in general are kind of evolving. So that's something that I'm excited about. So keep tuned in to guns.com for that.
Very cool. And again, guys, guns.com news is up in the top left corner. That's where you can find it until they flesh everything out. So very cool. Jackie, any cool events coming up that you're going to or anything like that?
I mean, I got my media pass for SHOT Show.
Exciting.
Yeah, I know how excited you are about that.
Oh, yeah.
I was gonna print one out and just hold it for you because I know how much you love those pictures. That's my next big one. Unless something pops up in the meantime, will be SHOT Show in January.
Do you need someone to carry your camera gear? Because I've always wanted to go to SHOT, but I've never been able to justify it. So I'd be your flunky.
Okay,
you can get me in.
Yeah, we might have to work out a deal here.
Awesome.
There you go. This Week in Guns, helping people find help all over the United States.
Yeah.
Ava, what have you been up to? Where can people find you online?
So I'm recording the Gun Funny podcast. Sean is my co-host until I find a new one. Mm-hmm. I'm kind of stuck with Sean.
Yep.
So, hey, Ava, how you doing?
Okay. There you go. Perfect.
Yes, this is great. This Week in Guns is awesome for putting people in, touch.
This is just, it's going well for Jackie tonight.
Yeah. So you can find Gun Funny at gunfunny.com for all of those links, social media, and anywhere that the podcast is located. And then I'm also on Instagram under Elite Firearms and Training, as well as Gun Funny has an Instagram as well, Gun Funny Podcast.
Very cool. Any cool guests lately?
I mean, we always have cool guests.
What about Michael Bain? That was cool.
Yeah, Michael Bain, we had him on. And yeah, talk about feeling like crap about your life. Like you haven't really done anything with your life because you talk to him for like 5 minutes and you realize there's just so much to be done. Yeah,
he's like, "What have you done?" I was like, "Well, I recorded podcasts in my mom's basement."
He's like, "Yeah, well, I jumped off a cliff and I lived."
Yeah, and I was like, "Well, I used Geico and I stayed at a Holiday Inn once." All right, very cool. Thanks for being here, Ava. And Aaron Paulette, first time to the show. Sorry about the tech issues earlier. What have you been up to? What are your plans for the near future? And where can people find everything that you're doing online?
Well, like I mentioned, the biggest development right now is me sort of absorbing Pink Pistols under my umbrella. And now I'm running 2 charity organizations, or rather a charity and a nonprofit. And that's all sorts of crazy as I try to find my feet and reassure people that, no, I'm not going to micromanage your chapter. You keep doing you. I'm handling things on a national level. So that's what I'm dealing with right now. I don't have anything really awesome that's coming up. I have been invited to attend the Liberal Gun Club's annual meeting in Orlando next month. Nice. I hope to be able to attend that, but I don't know if I'll be able to. Other than that, my schedule is pretty clear, although I'm going to use this platform to say that I am perfectly happy to come out to your organization and give a speech about my areas of expertise, whether it's being a gun owner, being a queer gun owner. All you'll need to do is help me with travel and lodging, and I will be happy to fly anywhere and give an hour or more presentation. So hit me up. You can contact me. My email address is aaron@blazingsword.org. As to where you can find me, I am all over the place on the internet. You can find my charity webpage is blazingsword.org. There's pinkpistols.org. I've got an emergency preparedness blog called Blue Collar Prepping. I've got a nerd blog where I talk about the things that interest me, and that's called Lurking Rhythmically. It's an inside joke. Don't worry about it. But I'm mostly really active on Facebook. I've got a public figure page where you can follow and see all the different political things that I'm doing, such as appearing on your show. And that's search for Aaron Paulette Operation Blazing Sword, and that's my public figure. And that'll basically be a hub for all the other things I'm doing. So I'm trying to basically create a media empire to rival that of Oprah.
There you go. I love it. You get
hashtag goals.
Yeah, exactly. You get social media. I love it. Fairness for everybody.
I have been on record as saying I want to be the pro-gun version of Bloomberg.
Well, that would be good. I'm down with that, actually. Yeah, we need one of those personally. All right, that's awesome. Aaron, Jackie, Ava, thank you so much for spending the evening with me. I truly appreciate it. Great talks on everything. And this show doesn't happen without our producer, Kenny Ortega. We truly appreciate his contributions. And I would like you to go check out Second Call Defense. We talk about stories on this show so often of homeowners that end up in jail, or homeowners that their lives are completely disrupted when they have to pull the trigger in a self-defense shooting. And whether you carry a gun every day or you just keep one in your house for protection, don't forget, once that trigger gets pulled, that's just when everything starts. That's when everything can really go wrong for you. Second Call Defense takes care of that and pays everything day one, dollar one, criminal defense, everything else that you could possibly imagine. Go check them out, firearmsradio.tv/SCD, and just see if that's of interest to you, because we have car insurance, homeowners insurance. I would highly recommend that you have some kind of self-defense insurance as well. Again, this is brought to you by the Firearms Radio Network. Thanks to everyone for being here, and we will see you next week.